Okay, so the washer's going. Sorry about that. And there's stuff on the ironing board for another day, so don't mind this either. um, so alright, what happened was that I thought I was gonna make one thing, and then I decided to make something else because my husband was like, why are you making that? But then the second thing I patterned, I was like, will I wear this? Or do I want to wear this right now? You know? So I spent a bunch of time patterning that and then I put it aside. And then I was on Pinterest and I kept seeing like these kind of caftan-esque tops. Here's my super simple drawing. So just like, a v-neck. This one's overlapped. I don't know if they all are overlapped. And then there's one particular one I saw that had, I think they had there was one picture and there was no link to anything, but it seemed to have drawstrings on the sleeves here, and the back was longer than the front. Hold on, let me. There's my terrible edition. So this will be the back being longer, the peplum being longer than the front. So I think I'm gonna go for this because the one I saw was shiny, and it made me think, I do have a shiny fabric. I have a shiny fabric in my stash that I bought for a project, but it ended up using something else, and it's been sitting there for years now. I'm still not completely sold on it. Like every time I pull it out, I remember why I ended up not using this. I think just I needed something and I thought this would do, and then I thought about it some more after I got it, and lighting was different. I don't know. It's just I don't know. It's I don't know if you can see it. It's not yellow. It's like a what is it? It's a cotton. I haven't washed it because I'm afraid to wash it. I don't know how I'm supposed to wash this actually. But like the back is, I don't know, like a cream. And then the top is like oversprayed or something with a gold. So I don't know. I thought maybe it is a cotton, so it has some body to it, and I think that would work well for this, for the kind I want, and just kind of like, not floopy. So I think I'm gonna try. And I also feel like it's kind of holiday-esque. It's like shiny and gold, so maybe this will work out. I have a lot of this fabric, so this won't use up all of this, but it'll use up a fair amount, I think. I don't remember how much I have. It might be 5 or 6 yards, but I mean, we'll see how much is left over. I'm gonna try to do a very simple pattern for this because I think the best way forward is to do like just a big square and then a seam at the waistline, and then I can adjust the back peplum. And I'm not sure if I want to cinch it all the way around or cinch it only at the front. And I think I can use seam allowances for if I'm going to do elastic at the waist or a drawstring, and at the arms also, because I think I'm just increasing the seam allowance on the arms and sewing that down, and then using that, well, not the whole arm, but the bottom part of the arm, and using that to cinch or to drawstring it up. The picture I saw, if I were to put it in here, had like the drawstrings kind of dangling and kind of long, and I was like, okay, this version looks kind of cool. And while I myself am not cool, I like cool looking things. So we'll see what we end up with. Okay, I think I've yammered on long enough, so I'm gonna get to the pattern. Okay, so I did do this pattern using my block pattern like I always do, but it really didn't have to be this complicated. So you can use like the measurements off of the block pattern, or just do like what I did and trace the block pattern and do everything like that. But I did make a little diagram just to show
what measurements you actually need, because you don't need many, and you don't really need your block pattern either, honestly. But it didn't mean I didn't take any measurements. Okay, so here's a little diagram that I made to hopefully help explain this. I should have made the colors more contrasty, made sure they had more contrast against each other, but here it is. And also I forgot to put the green is for the neckline. But here are all like the measurements you really need, like the neck to the length of the sleeve that you want, the shoulder to the waist, and the length of the peplum. So I had 2 different measurements for the peplum for the front and the back. Okay, so these are the measurements I ended up with. The neck to the end of the sleeve, I measured to the middle of my hand about. And for the neckline width, I wanted to be a couple inches away from the side of my neck, just for comfort, you know. That ended up being about 4 inches. I don't know if it was 2 inches away, but this is the measurement I used. And I didn't want to be too low either, so I went down about 6.5 inches total, I think. So that overlap past the center front there, that red line, that just came about from, the width and the depth I wanted from the neckline. So I just made that diagonal line, and that ended up having a 5 3/4 inch overlap at the center front. So it is kind of like a big overlap, but that was worth it to me to have not a crazy neckline, And then all the measurements are pretty self-explanatory. The seam allowances for the top and at where the shoulder is, and then where the waistline is, to the bottom of the top, and the top of the peplum there is 1 inch, just so that I could run through elastic and drawstrings, etc. And then the side is also 1 inch, so that I could hem where the armhole is. And then the bottom of the peplum is 2 inches, so that I could have a nice, hefty hem at the bottom of the peplum. Now, the only 1/2 inch here, I think, is where the neckline is. That's a 1/2 inch just to attach the facing. These are both for the front, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned that. And I did end up having to piece together the peplum piece down there. Like 2 of those seamed at a 1/2 inch in the front, instead of like one continuous piece on instead of one continuous piece on the fold like I intended, just because of fabric, etc. And yeah. Okay, and then here are the back pieces. For the top part, really just changed the neckline here. So I went down 3 inches and just did a curve there. And for the peplum is about, I think, 7 inches longer than the front peplum. It could do this as a curve. I did 2 separate pieces and have a slit on the side, but you can just graduate the front to the back so that it doesn't have a slit and it's more continuous, which I think most peplums are for these kaftans, but I don't mind the slit. And I also did have to end up seaming both of these in the center. So I added a 1/2 inch to the center for the top and the bottom, just to piece together fabric. Okay, and then here are the facings for the front and back necklines. Just traced the necklines and made the facings about 2.5 inches wide. For the waist elastic, I just ended up sewing together the 1 inch seam allowances at the waist to make a channel. But for this drawstring at the sleeves, I ended up sewing down those seam allowances to the body of the kaftan to make channels. I ended up having to skip about 3 inches from the end of the sleeve. 2 inches was taken up by the hem allowance there, and then I needed to skip 1 inch just to have openings there so I could thread through the drawstring. So that 12.5 inches in orange is supposed to be where I sewed the seam allowance down after sewing the front and back pieces together, but ended up being more like 9.5 inches because I hadn't thought it all the way through clearly. And yeah, I think that's all of the pieces for the pattern. Okay, so here are all the pattern pieces. So the front bodice, I cut 2 of them mirrored. The front bodice facing, the neckline adjustment for the back neckline facing, and the peplum, which is going to be cut on the fold. So for the back peplum, just lengthening it, and that's it. I think that's all the pieces. All right, good to go.
Okay, so it's been a couple of days since I finished the pattern, maybe a few days. I did make a mistake and I fixed that and it tweaked something, but it's been a couple of days at least. So I think today I am gonna cut out the fabric. I'm not gonna wash the fabric first just because I'm still worried about what to do with that coating. Yeah, so I'm just gonna go for it. It's really wrinkly, so I'm wondering if I should iron it first, or maybe I'll cut it out and then iron it. I might do that. It's not like a super tight pattern or anything. Like, I think it'll be fine. So, just gonna get to it. All right, so I think I'm gonna cut out the front first. I just folded it in half, and that should give me a mirror. I'm doing it widthwise in the fabric here because it's, you know, it's basically a perfect fit, so I think I'll conserve fabric this way. So I'm gonna do this and then do it again, and I'm gonna cut out a rough cut, or just cut the rectangle out and then cut that on the table, and then do the back the same way. And then there's plenty of fabric, I think, so I think it should be fine. All right, let's get to my favorite part of sewing cutting. Try to flatten it onto the table, but it's just too poofy. So I'm just gonna give it a quick iron. Now I'm gonna fold this on the center front and then put it on the neck piece for the back. I'm gonna rough cut it out and then do all this part on the table. But I'm gonna have to, because I'm doing it cutting like this, I'm gonna have to have a seam in the center back. So I'm just gonna cut this with an extra 1/2 inch to sew together. I folded the center front here, and then I put my ruler here to get that 1/2 inch, and then that's where I cut it all the way up. And then now I just all the way up, and then now I just matched up the neck pattern, and now I'm just gonna follow that, and then the rest will be the same because it's all a rectangle. Alright, so I'm cutting out the front peplum piece, and because of the way I'm cutting down the fabric, I'm going to have to seam it, even though originally I wasn't doing the fold. So I'm just going to add a 1/2 inch to the front as I cut it here, the same way I did for the back. And then I'm going to have to, this is like folded the same way the other pieces were. And I'll do the same thing for the back pattern, but with like that extra 7 inches added to the bottom. Okay, so for the back, I just need to add an extra 7 inches. So I'm going to cut out a bigger piece to cut. And I have to remember to add on the 1/2 inch seam allowance also. Remember that. Remember. Seam allowance, seam allowance, seam allowance. Hopefully I'll remember. Alright, I thought I had so much fabric, but this is what's left. Okay, yeah, this is what's left. So I wanted to originally have 65-inch length ties, but this goes to 51 inches. I'm thinking of just cutting this length. And if it's not long enough, then I'll just piece something in the middle where you won't see it. You know, but like this might be fine, you know, so maybe the ties won't be as long hanging, but it'll be fine. So I'm just gonna cut this. I know you can rip cotton on the grain, but I haven't done that for this just because I feel like it warps it. I don't know. I'm just gonna cut it on the table. I was cleaning up the floor a bit in here, and I think I picked up some like bits of fabric or dust or something, so I've been wearing a mask while I've been cutting, and so now my face is all red. What was I gonna say? Done cutting. That took me about 2.5-ish hours, something like that. because I had a rough cut, then iron each piece, and then do the finishing cutting on the table, which I did not use a mat for except for like at the very end because it was just such big pieces, and I don't know, once I put it down it's hard to move the mat around without shifting the pattern. And I just find it's not just easier to use a rotary cutter, it's more accurate, I feel like. And I don't like to pin the fabric either because I feel like it always comes out off when I pin it. So I like to weigh it down and rotary cut it. But this table is all scratched up now because I've done this multiple times. So RIP my table, you know. But I have to go now. Food's coming and I gotta go take a shower. Alright, so it's the next day and I'm being clobbered by Shark Week again. So I'm just gonna serge today, but I am realizing I'm gonna have to change out the black thread for white thread because this is so light. And I don't wanna use the black thread and regret it later. So I guess first thing is doing that, changing the thread in the serger, and then I guess I'll just serge everything but the necklines. Okay, so it's the next day. I'm feeling a little bit better today, so I think I'm gonna try to get through as much construction as I can. And I was thinking about what order to go in and realized two things. One, I wanted to use the seam at the top of the shoulder for the drawstring, but then I realized I'm going to be hemming the end of that, closing off that loop, you know? So maybe I'll just leave the hem as is and then skip a bit and then sew so I can pull it from the side openings of the seam. I don't know, we'll see. And then secondly, I didn't mark where to stop the side seam and where the sleeve opening should start, you know, because it's just a big square. So I'm thinking for that I'm just gonna go up maybe like 5 inches from my waistline. Like, I'm just like trying to think about how much space that is, you know. So I think I'm gonna sew 5 inches up from the waistline, stop there. And I think like I'm gonna have to do the top and with the side seams and then the bottom peplum with the side seams and then attach them because I want to use that waist seam for the elastic. And I think if I do it like I would usually do it, which is sew the front and the back and then do the side seams, then that will interrupt that loop, I think. Like my brain trying to work through this. So, all right, let's just start and then that'll help clarify, hopefully. I have all my pieces cut out and layered with the pattern pieces. Hopefully keep all these rectangles straight in what they are. So I'm starting with sewing the front. No, actually what I should do is sew the back seam first and then sew the shoulders. All right. It's always when I start that I realize things. The closest thing I have is this yellow thread, which I think will be fine. I'll go with it. It's a little more lemon and less primary yellow in person. So. Okay, so the back seam is sewn and pressed, so now I'm gonna clip on the front pieces at the shoulder. It's a bit difficult to show because the pieces are so big, but here are the two front pieces with the V like this and the back piece, and then here the shoulders clipped together. So I'm just gonna sew those real fast. Okay, shoulder seams are
sewn and pressed. So I think now I'm going to sew together the facing to put that on next. Okay, facing shoulder seams are sewn and pressed, so I'm just going to attach it here to the neckline. I'm gonna have to pull out pins for this because this is probably gonna be prone to shifting more. All right, facing is pinned, so let me just sew all of that. All right, so the neckline facing is sewed on. I clipped like where the seam allowances were and the curves, and then I sewed the seam allowance to the facing to keep it inside and around it. So there you go. So this neckline is basically done. I think before I put this together where it's supposed to be and stitch it, I think I'm gonna actually work on the shoulder seams here. So for the drawstring channels, so I think I'm gonna mark where I want to start, which is gonna be past the the hem allowance now and seam allowance, and I'll just go for, I don't know, maybe 12 inches. What my original plan was that. So let me look at that real fast. All right, so here's the shoulder seam and slash arm seam. And first I marked it at 2 inches and realized that's gonna be the hem. Like, so if it's a 1-inch hem, it's going up, like it's a 1-inch seam allowance. So that means it's gonna be sewn up here, which means it's gonna be turned in like this. Right? I think so. So instead I marked it 3 inches. So that way there's space. So when this folds over, then there'll be space to thread through here, hopefully. So then I want to start from the 3 inches, and then I'm just going to go up 9 inches and stop there. Hopefully that'll work. So I'm just going to like sew, I guess, along the edge of the selvage here and hope for the best. All right, here's how it looks from the outside. I mean, not the best, not the worst, kind of. It did slip on the other side. So I think it's just like the fabric. So for a second I thought there was like a tension issue, but I think it's literally just the fabric was slipping. I'm just gonna leave it. I think it's gonna be fine, especially if it ends up ruche. I don't think it's gonna be too much of a problem. So, and I'm lazy, so I'm not gonna do anything about it. Okay. All right. So now that everything that's easier to do at the top, well, it's flat, is done, I think. I'm gonna do up the side seams and also sew up the bottom of the overlap and then the hem. See if I can do all that real fast. Hopefully I have a little bit of time left. Okay, I changed my mind. I'm gonna sew up this overlap for the neckline first before doing the side seams because it feels like it'll be easier. But like, I know it's supposed to be after the seam allowance taken out here. I think it's supposed to be like 5 1/4 overlap, or 5 1/4 from the center, you know. And it's not. It's more like 4 1/2 ish, and I don't know why. But this is where it wants to lay, so I'm just gonna let it be, and hopefully it'll work out fine. But I don't know why that's happening. But I'm just gonna clip this together and do just a quick stitch in the seam allowance. The seam allowance is gonna be 1 inch when adding on the peplum, so there's plenty of space to just stick in a quick stitch. All right, I ended up just doing it at 3/4 inch because I figured it'd be closer to the 1 inch to be better, so it'll be like more correct when I sew on the peplum. Okay, so now I'm gonna just clip together the side seams real fast. Side seam clip together, and then 1 inch plus 1 inch seam allowance plus 5 inches to go up to like where the arm sleeve is gonna be. I'll see. I'll do that and then I'll try it on before I commit to it. Look at the other side too. All right, I have both of the side seams clipped and marked.
But I think I'm gonna have to stop here because I've been at it for about 3 hours and I'm out of time now. So I'll pick up here again hopefully tomorrow. We'll see. Okay, it's the next day. So I don't have a lot of time. So I think if I can just sew up the side seam and maybe hem the peplum pieces and sew them together. I'm thinking of leaving a slit where they get sewn together because I feel like that'll look better than having just, you know, the steep drop off. I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be continuous peplum because I looked at it more afterwards and I haven't seen a peplum that has a slit in the side, you know? But I also think it might go with the design, so I'm going to keep it and see how it comes out. We'll find out. So first step is sewing up the side seam that I marked yesterday. So let me do that. And then I think I'm gonna have to hand stitch the hem for the sleeve part. And I might wait to do that later when I want to sit down. Right now I want to stand. All right, so that 6 inches is sewn up. And while I was ironing the side seam, I also ironed the hem, which is like the same seam. So, and I clipped it together. I think I'm gonna try, we'll see. I might try to hand stitch that if I don't get lazy. I did not try it on because, again, I got lazy and didn't want to. So I'm gonna assume it's gonna be fine. We'll see. I also have noticed this stain here that I didn't notice before. So, and it's right in the front. So, you know, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe it won't be too visible once it's ruched and stuff. I don't know. We'll find out. But for now, I think I'm going to stop the top portion here, and then I'm going to move on to the peplum. So I think I'm just going to sew together the two like front pieces of that 1/2 inch I added, and the two back pieces together at the 1/2 inch also. And then if I can sew the side seams together at that 1 inch seam. I'm trying to keep all my seam allowances straight. So wish me luck. All right, so I sewed out the center front and center back seams at that 1/2 inch allowance. And then while I was there, I thought I might as well just do the side seams. So I sewed up the side seams at that 1 inch allowance that I left for them. And then I eyeballed leaving some open for a slit. So I think I ended up doing about 6 inches. I sewed about 6 inches from the top of the peplum. From here to here, and then so this part, this is the front, this is the back, so there's this much released here, and 2 inches of that is going to be hem. At least that was the plan. 2 inches is a hem. So if I fold that up, there's like a teeny tiny little slit. It's like 1 inch maybe, which might look strange. I'm not sure. So maybe I need to do a bigger slit. I'm not sure, but I'm going to leave it as is for now. I just realized I measured how big the slit is going to be wrong because the slit includes the hem, you know? So that slit is actually going to be more like 2 and almost 3/4 of an inch, which, I mean, that's not that bad. It might be fine. All right, now I'm going to iron everything, seams and hem allowance. Okay, so here's the side seam. So I ironed open the seam allowance inside and then just continued it down. But then before I iron up the hem, I'm just gonna throw in a stitch here and here just to keep it, you know, locked down before I sew the hem up. I think I'm actually gonna try to change the top thread out for white because maybe it'll look better than the yellow. And then if it looks okay, maybe I can use it for the hem for the top too instead of hand stitching it. This looks much better than the yellow. Just went up and around and then down, and I think it's good. I'm going to do this for the other slit also, and then also I think I'm gonna just use the machine to do the same thing for the hem for the sleeve. Okay, so here's the slit. I just use a presser foot width to go all the way around. And I think it looks pretty good. I think once I iron it, it'll look even better. And then I just did the same thing for here. For the hem, I just sewed it from the outside and presser foot width. And, you know, just made a little square at the bottom like I did for the slit. And it looks pretty good. I think like this is just so much better. I should have sewn from the top for the channels, for the drawstring channels, and I should have switched out to white thread because it looks so much better. It really makes me wanna redo these channels here because it just looks ugly. And there's also clearly a tension issue that for some reason is showing up sporadically. I don't know if it's the fabric or I'm going too fast sometimes for the machine or with this fabric or something else is wrong. I need to clean the machine probably. But it's not great, you know, it doesn't look great. So I don't know, but I also don't want to deal with doing it again. We'll see. But since we're going to stop now, I just don't have time anymore to like put the hem up. It's been a couple hours, so yeah, I'll pick this up again maybe in a day or two. All right, it's been a couple of days since I worked on this top. I didn't work on it at all over the weekend. I think I'm gonna cross my fingers here and hope I can just finish it right now. But we'll see. I'm thinking about redoing the ruching channel on the sleeves just because it's so. The other like hem and stuff I did from the outside with the cream thread looks so much better. So I'm gonna try to do that, maybe sew right next to that original yellow thread and then unpick it. And then I want to sew up the hems for the peplum. So I need to iron those up 2 inches and sew that down also from the outside. I learned my lesson, and then I need to attach that to the top, and then sew that seam allowance together to make the channel for the elastic, and then I need to make the ties and put them into the channels. Okay, that's kind of a lot, so let me get started. Let's see how far I get. All right, so I redid only 2 of the channels, not all 4, because I did 1 and it was so much work to unpick it that I just did the worst one after that. So there's 1 done on each side. I just like didn't think it was worth the effort, honestly. Like, I don't know if you can tell. Like, here's the new one, here's the old one. And like, you know, it left a line of holes because I had to unpick, you know? So, I don't know. I'm stopping there. It's not worth it to me. So, I think now I'm going to move on to ironing up the hem for the peplum, the front and the back. Okay, so the hem is sewn and pressed, and so now I am going to attach it to the top of the bodice. So remembering to do the short part in the front. I'm also wondering how well it's going to match up because the front is overlapped more than I wanted it to be. So we'll see how this goes. I'll just clip it together, and whatever doesn't fit, I'm just gonna make it fit. I'll just gather whatever part's not fitting because it's gonna get gathered anyway. So I really don't think it's gonna make that much of a visual difference. I'm fully at puddle of fabric stage,
It doesn't match exactly, but it's fine. I'll make it work. Alright, so the peplum is sewn on, and while I was at the machine, maybe I should have ironed this first, but I didn't. While I was at the machine, I also just used the presser foot as a guide to sew this 1-inch seam together. And I left an opening somewhere. I left an opening here at the side seam so that I could thread the elastic into the waistband. So yeah, I think I'm gonna stop here. I thought maybe I would get to the ties, but I'm like thinking about the ties right now and how I want to do them, because like I was originally going to fold them and then just sew them from the outside. I'm wondering if I want to turn them inside out just to make them thinner, but I hate turning these inside out like thin straps, and I don't have a loop chain or anything, but I'm gonna think about it.
All right, it's the next day, and I was thinking about the straps. I cut them so that I could, fold it into the center ones and then fold it in half, and then just the top stitch on the outside, because I just hate turning stuff. Like, it's just so okay. So that's what I wanted to do, but I've been wondering if that's gonna make it too stiff. Just usually fine for like shoulder straps and stuff, but these aren't shoulder straps, and like they're gonna be hanging at least partially. So I know you can use a ribbon to like sew in there and then turn it out that way. I don't have a ribbon that I could use for that. I think it's narrow enough, but I do have this elastic. And I might regret it because it's gonna stretch first before it hits the point where it can be pulled, but it'll be fine. So I guess I'll try this and see how that turns out. I'm not sure how wide I'll make it. Maybe I'll just have a 1/2-inch seam allowance on there. We shall see. This is not working. I don't know if it's long or because I folded the end. I don't know. However, I am tossing that down because I am getting so frustrated. So I'm gonna try just tucking this in. Work another strap because the other one's ruined. I'm gonna try to use my safety pin to get through the ruching here, just to have proof of concept before I commit to another one and doing it. So let's see. It's too thick. Okay, I'm just gonna use this elastic to thread through because it's smaller, and then maybe I can sew this down in there to have it be the thing ruching it, but then have like the cord just be the one hanging loose to look like it's doing that. Let me try. Okay, so I threaded it through the openings here and then up and then out of the seam allowance and back through. So I think I can just do this, just, ruche it. See how it looks from the other side. All right, I'm just gonna guess here. I'm just gonna ruche it as much as I can. All right, that's what we're doing. This is where we're at, and I am gonna just tie it off because I am over it. All right, cool. And I'm just gonna cut it, and then I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. This is how it looks. It's just as tight as I can do it. All right, so I really got set back by trying to turn straps around. So I just went back to my regular folding method and top stitching. I had to cut a new one. Because I ruined the other one. So that set me back a lot of time. I think for these, I'm just gonna tuck them through like where the bows are from the elastic that I put in for the ruching, and just tie them in there. So that's what's gonna happen with these. So maybe I won't have to sew them at all onto there. And then the last thing I want to do before I stop, because I should have stopped already, is I'm just gonna figure out how much elastic to put in, and just thread it through. So I think I want it to be tight. So, and do I want to double it up? Because this elastic is kind of thin. I do worry about its staying power. So maybe I double it. This needs some space for how much fabric there is. So maybe here. So this like is tight, but it's not crazy. Is that how much I want? How much overlap is this? 1 3/4 inches. Okay. Alright, so I'm just gonna thread this through, doubled up. Okay, and then for the tie, I think I'm just gonna tuck it through these little bows I made, and then just even it out. Yeah, I'm gonna just tuck it in and leave it like that actually, and not do anything else. And then we'll see how it looks when I try it on. Okay, I'm gonna leave this as this crumpled up piece of fabric and deal with it later. I think I'm done, but I haven't tried it on, so who knows what it looks like, honestly. So just put it aside for now. I gotta go eat. Okay. My hair is just so staticky right now. It's trying to stick straight to my scalp. But the top, I like the top. I think it came out pretty close to the reference. I do think maybe I should tack the fold over part here down, but I didn't want to do it for the reveal because I feel like it looks better when it's not tacked down. But I would probably put like a little stitch in there so I wouldn't worry about it, you know, opening. And what else? And I think I would increase the length of the ruching. Maybe they're like 8-9 inches. And I would increase the width of the seam allowance at the top here also by 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch, just so that I can get the drawstring through and it could be a true channel that's adjustable. And I think the longer one would be good too, give you more options for length. Maybe at some point I'll figure out how to do a drawstring, turning it inside out. It just got stuck when I was trying to turn it inside out and I went back to my top stitching, you know. I do think like, because it's so, I kind of feel it's kind of like an avant-garde kind of top, maybe because it's so structured and shiny that it just is this is the statement of the outfit, you know? So I try to keep everything else simple and kind of light so it wasn't drawing too much attention. So like light jeans and my clear shoes. I had other options for shoes, but these were more comfortable, so I picked these. And I matched like a copper purse with it because I figured it's metallic. The little silver detail on the shoes shines silver, and then the purse is copper and this is gold, or like a light gold. So I figured it's going because they're all metallics, right? Basically. So I wanted to keep the outfit light, and then so I could do a bold lip to make it feel more like winter or holiday. Um, but yeah, it's really comfortable. Like it's kind of like wearing a tent, a little bit. So I'm not opposed to that. And yeah, I think overall I achieved what I wanted to achieve. And I think I'm just not used to wearing a top like this, honestly. So I kind of feel a little off, but I feel like I would get used to it, you know? And I like the danglies. I like the, even though I just looped them in through like the elastic that I put for the ruching channels. It looks like it's the part it looks like the drawstring is what's ruching it, which is all that really matters, right? So I do like it. I feel like it adds like a cool element to it, and because the whole thing is kind of feels a little bit undone, a little bit like not trying too hard, etc. You know, and so that's the feel I get from it. So yeah, I think it's an easy enough sew. It did take me some time though because it's a lot of fabric, you know. So the channels it's a long stitch to sew, and then putting elastic in, it was a big thing to gather. Like it's really tightly gathered at the waist, and yeah. So I think like big cuts of fabric and you know, big things to sew, big things for elastic. So it's more time consuming than difficult. So yeah, I would recommend if you like how it looks, and you can also feel how it feels to wear a tent. But yeah, I think that's everything. I don't know. I hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.